what we've been doing over the course of the last 7 weeks is we wrote a blog and we interviewed multiple individuals within the industry, a lot of different experiences, a lot of different areas, industries, and we wanted to dive in deep on the 8 habits of an effective recruiter. And we talked anywhere between, the first couple was be a sponge at all times. Number 2 was dedicate time for those tasks. Always have a pipeline of talent. Find human resources to lean on, like mentors, community, other avenues. Another one is finding existing tools, learning opportunities. And we touched on Academy. We talked about start.me pages and really follow industry leaders. And the most important one I wanted to say for last, and I wanted to talk through this together. And it's how do you manage the hiring manager throughout the recruiting process? In the chat right now, let me know if you've just started a new requisition in the last maybe week, and maybe you haven't had that intake conversation, or you are just had it. Anybody on there? And then we can take kind of a real life example of how I approach things when I'm recruiting a new role, and some tips on how to manage the hiring manager. Anybody on the call that has a real life rec that we can kind of walk through here and how I kind of would manage that? If not, I can just grab one from LinkedIn. All right, nobody wants to share. That's totally fine. I will share my screen and we can just do this in real life. All right, let me know if you can share if you can see my screen. Give me a thumbs up in the chat. Let's see here. Anybody can see my screen? Throw it in the chat. Yes, perfect. Thank you so much for your confirmation. What I'm just going to do is go for jobs. Okay. Let's just do a software engineer in Minnesota. Just because I'm based off in Minnesota, I'd like to just take some of that individual. One of the biggest, providers of employment here is maybe, let's just say Target has, whoops. Let's see, jobs, software engineer, Minnesota. I guess it doesn't really matter. Anyways, all right. You have a requisition that you're working on, whatever it may be, and part of the process of increasing that relationship with the hiring manager isn't when, hey, here's a rec, work on it, let's set up an intake call, and they literally restate every single thing that's on the job description. What I like to do as a recruiter is when you see that requisition going through the approval process, that is when I always like to reach out to that hiring manager and let them know, hey, here's the status of your requisition. It isn't approved yet, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some digging. I'm going to do some research on that specific opportunity and those roles that we're targeting for you. And when that approval's happening, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set specific time for us to speak. And some people, raise your hand. Do you guys use an intake questionnaire and you send that to the hiring manager, or do you kind of wait and you kind of drive the process? Show of hands, like who already has like a pre-trained requisition? Like, hey, I send that to the hiring manager. I want them to fill it out. There's no right or wrong. But having a framework of saying this is what I'm going to go over, and I'm going to do some digging on the front end to understand what's happening. So let's just take the scenario of a software engineer in Minneapolis that I'm trying to focus in on. What I want to do is sometimes you have the resources, the talent, insights in your internal organizations, and sometimes you don't. So you kind of have to do some digging on your own end. Understand the landscape of what's happening, macro landscape of the specific roles. Becky, the rec is approved before I'm assigned the rec, and then I schedule the intake. Okay, perfect. You could probably see the approval process when it gets trickled down. Maybe when you know, maybe a day ahead of time that it's going to get approved, then I would reach out to the hiring manager saying, hey, I want to set up some specific time to go over the process and how we can fill that rec faster. Okay, so we have that. What I love to do too is I'm going to show you guys some insights that obviously Hire Easy has available to utilize. So I'm just going to get in the process in the our platform. So we wanted to work on a software engineer in Minnesota. Okay. And let's just say I work at Target. Okay. Let's for example. Okay. Or let's just do something simple. Amazon. Okay. Amazon has a building in Minneapolis. I used to work there. Okay. So I hit Amazon. If I'm generating insights on Amazon and I want to do a job title of software engineer, the job description is going to give us very, very basic stuff. But you want to prep on the front end going into that intake conversation. So you're a business expert of what the competitor landscape is, what's going on in the industry for that specific role. Okay. Amazon's here. Okay. We type in Amazon, and what this inflow and outflow does, it gives you insights of where people are getting hired from that come to Amazon, as where's people leaving for Amazon in software engineering roles. Okay. And I can even dive in deep a little more specifically on the specific locations. So let's just say we wanted Minnesota. Okay. So just say Minneapolis. All right. It dives in deep on the specific data based on where people are coming from. So we're hiring a lot from Target. People that are leaving are Atlantis, him and hers, cloud engineering, based on the statistics. Okay. For example, so if we gain somebody from here, he was a lead software developer at Target. He went to Amazon in 2023, a software engineering 2. Okay. Hypothetically, if we've hired somebody from Target before, they probably have a good chance of doing the interview process very well and getting hired again. So we can definitely clone this person and get some talent in there. But for right now, as a talent advisor, instead of being an order taker going into the intake conversation, you want to go in, talk through what the company landscape is, the titles that actually work out well, the diversity based on the specific role. So if that could be an initiative, and you want to come into data of what you're looking for, years of experience in this total market. Okay. So 1 to 2 years, 13%, 2 to 4 years, 11%, 4 to 6 years, 17%. So when they say, hey, I want 10 to 15 years with the experience, but we're only paying a certain amount of people, you have that wiggle room of trying to give them information and data based on that. Okay. So what I would do is do some pre-search, understand what the landscape is, what is the top companies locally that we can target from. Okay. If you're seeing a lot of talent moving and they're going to Target, or we're getting a lot of things, utilize that data and let them know that on the front of, hey, here's the landscape. Here's the research I've done to identify top talent locally. Okay. What you also could do is you could definitely use, obviously, ChatGPT. Okay. Everybody's using it right now. And what you can do is say, all right, the manager wants 3 to 5 years experience in software engineering. So if I were a software engineer with 3 to 5 years of experience looking for my next role, what companies have I been working at in Minnesota? says if you are a software engineer with 3 to 5 years experience based in Minnesota, these are the companies that you'd be working with. Okay. That gives you a head start on the landscape of what the current market looks like and who's been hiring over the course of, the last couple of years. Okay. So it gives you a front end of here are the companies. Okay. Here's the landscape of where people are leaving our company, where people are targeting companies. So when you're going in with having that conversation with the hiring manager, you're the expert in what's going on for that specific role. Okay. You set the meeting and you go in and say, hey, just, hiring manager, my name is Dan. I just wanted to let you know I've done my pre-work and I'm the expert at what's going on in the industry for this specific role. Does this look like what you've looked at in the past based on hiring? And what did you do last time in that hiring process? How did it go? You want to know the good, bad, and the ugly from their previous experiences with working with recruiting. Some people say, yep, that was great, or no, I had some issues. Use the intake conversation like a sales call. And what I mean by that is show your value, but really get down to uh, the understanding of why the position is open and the pain points of what is, if I don't fill this role, how is that going to affect them as a leader? What projects their team is working on? Are they going to lose any type of budgets? And ask them, hey, before we start, I want to let you know that I'm going to work my hardest on filling that role for you. Without that role being filled, how is that impacting your specific team and your personal job? And what they're going to tell you is, hey, I'm working longer hours. My team is getting burnt out. I might be losing a project due to I can't fill the workload. It's going to get transferred to my team, another team. And you're really peeling back the overall picture and giving them motivation to fill the role. Okay. Then say, hey, I looked at the job description. That's pretty generic information. What specifically, if we could narrow down 5 different things that you want in a persona based on what you want to hire? And what they're going to do is they're going to say, well, I like people from um Target or UHG or Best Buy, 3M, and you say, okay, sounds good. Thank you for letting me know. I see that you graduated from the University of Minnesota. Do you like talent from there? What have you seen success with from an education standpoint? And they might say, oh, I like people from Michigan or a USC or whatever it may be. You'd write that down. And then you get 3 or 4 other personas of based on what the hiring manager likes seeing, what they've had success with, and then you gather all that information and you say, great, thank you for the information. And you're having this on an intake conversation that you can document and kind of refer back later. Leaders would love to share the information, but maybe you only get that one opportunity one time. Time is valuable, and they don't want to keep on, hey, can you give me some more time on your calendar, more time on your calendar, asking repeatable questions. They'll give you the time, but make sure you're asking questions that are different and make sure you write down the answers and make sure that you can revert back so you're not just multiplying the questions that have already been answered. Okay. So you have all this information, you've done your research, you've done your pre-search, you have all this information. Okay. And the next step is setting expectations for the rest of the process. I think a misconception of when we start a new intake conversation, a new rec, is we will only have a conversation with the hire manager during the intake conversation. And then if we have any type of resumes or whenever we need them, okay? Having expectations of what I've seen success with is setting expectations on the front end and asking them, hey, I've done my research. I know the landscape. I see what you're wanting. Now I'm going to ask you, when you got recruited to come here, did you want to talk to a recruiter or sourcer or would you prefer that you have talked to the decision maker quicker in the process, even if you weren't looking? And what they're going to say 9 times out of 10 is, yeah, I want to talk to the hiring manager or the decision maker as quickly and as often as possible, because they're the one I'm actually going to be working with. And they're going to be the ones that actually make the decision in the process. Okay. So what you want to do is let them know that, say that out loud and say, I 100% agree. The misconception of recruiters is I filled the role, I found the job person or the candidate for that job, and it was all about the recruiter. We need to switch our mindset and put the hiring manager at the face of the job requisition of whatever role you're doing. Okay. And one of the best things that you can do is letting them know that, hey, I'm not the one that's going to be working with them. You know, from a technical standpoint, that you want to hire a specific person. Okay. Who did you hire in the past? And then pull up the open requisition that was, or the closed requisition that was filled last time around, and then go through those, silver medalists of saying, hey, have you looked at this person? Here's 4 or 5 individuals that made it. You had a conversation with them. Another manager had a conversation with them. Would we consider going back to them? That's cutting out a process. Okay. But getting them know, hey, you're going to be front of center. You are going to be the star of this requisition, and that's how we're going to fill this quickly. And get expectations on the front end of saying, I need your support and I need you to be part of this. The pushback that you're going to get is, I don't have time in the day to source. I don't have time in the day to go back and forth with candidates through email. And you say, that's great. I have a plan. I have a process in place to have you be the center, but I'll take all the admin work out of the whole recruiting process. This is the process that I want you to commit to. And having accountability and a plan in place will help both of us fill this role quicker. Okay, you can talk about how long did it take last time to fill this role, and they're going to give you maybe 82 days. Okay, that's the data I have as well. Was that too long for your team to fill that role? They're going to always say, yes, I need to fill it tomorrow, right? The cliche. Yeah, when do you need this by? Tomorrow. Okay, if you truly believe that, this is the plan in place, and I need your accountability, and it's going to hold me accountable to doing my thing to get you the most candidates possible. Or do we agree on that? Yes, perfect. Here's the plan in place. We have the 30-minute meeting. I am going to schedule 2 15-minute quick meetings with you every single week, Tuesday, Thursday. And you can, figure out what times work for each other. And they say, during that meeting, if it's a Tuesday, Thursday, every Tuesday, I'm going to roll into that meeting with 20 qualified candidates that I've sourced internally, externally, that hit your criteria. What I need you to do is we're going to review those LinkedIn profiles. And what that does is, if we look at it and he looks at it, she looks at it, the candidate's profiles, it's going to trigger the candidate that, hey, who's viewed my profile? And it's the hiring manager. Okay. Every Tuesday, Thursday, we're going to go over through that list, and you give me a thumbs up and thumbs down based on the professional experience that they display. Are these candidates worth a conversation? I'm not saying they can do the job. They're not going to. I'm not saying are they the 100% the best fit, because we don't know those conversations until those conversations happen. But do they require a phone screen based on that experience? And she's gonna say, yep. Let's have that process. Every Tuesday, Thursday, we have a slate of candidates. What it does is holds your recruiters accountable that you have to bring at least 15 resumes to that hiring manager for review based on the criteria that went off of your intake conversation. 15 minutes. Yep, perfect. We go through that. You take that list. Again, we want to have the hiring manager be front and center of this requisition. Let's just say 15 candidates, 8 people went through Tuesday. You send a message to those 8 individuals in a cadence. Okay, a lot of people know what drip campaigns. There's multi-channel approaches, and in Hire Easy, you can do a campaign with texting, email. But the biggest thing that I would tell you is tell the hire manager, this is what we're gonna do. Hire manager, I'm gonna send an email to those 8 candidates, introducing you, attaching the LinkedIn profile, and said, hey, so candidate, the hiring manager linked the LinkedIn profile. Would love to have a conversation with you. We've reviewed your information. Okay. If they don't respond, the hiring manager will send those 8 individuals a message saying, hey, I don't know if you saw my recruiter's message, but I'd love to have a conversation with you. You can scale this process out utilizing automation, especially through Hire Easy. You can do an email on behalf of a hiring manager and really go, Dan sends a message introducing the hiring manager. Message 2 days later, if they haven't responded, hiring manager sends, hey, did you get that message from Dan? Maybe the third one, if they still haven't reached out and responded, say, hey, did you see my hiring manager? They really want to chat with you. Remember, on the front end, we said if we get connected with these 15 individuals or 10 individuals in that resume review session, will you have a conversation with them? And he or she already agreed to the terms of that. So when you do get a response rate, and it's very high because, like I said, nobody wants to talk to the recruiter or sourcer. They only want to talk to the hiring manager and the decision maker. And involving the hiring manager and decision maker in the process early on, what it's going to do is 2 things. The hiring manager has more ownership and visibility. And if they respond and they see the response from the candidate, they can't go, yeah, I don't want to interview them because they already agreed on it. And 2, once you get later stage in the process, they already have some investment into a candidate because they messaged them, they had a phone screen with them, and they're building relationships with these candidates on the early end of the stage. Second thing, if candidates aren't responding, it gives the business a little insight of what recruiters deal with every single day on that response rate. Okay. In Hire Easy, the cool thing about these campaigns is it shows you response rate, it shows you open rate, it shows you all the statistics, and you can present that to the hiring managers of saying, hey, we reached out to those 15 people, 8 people responded, but there's 7 people that opened it. They didn't say no yet, so let's do a follow-up with those 7 individuals. And it gives you statistics and be more of a business partner. Okay. They're tied to you as a partnership and helping them talk to candidates early on in the process and being the ones, it creates that ownership. What it also does, Tuesday meeting comes, Thursday meeting, I know as a recruiter, if only 8 went through to the 15, I know that I have to bring 15 more candidates on Thursday for that resume review. So once I get that number of yes, those people are good, those people are not, reach out to them. I already have a plan in place and how I'm going to orchestrate the campaign. All right. Let's just say in a perfect world, you reach out to them, they're involved, that's exciting, whatever. But the one thing I would always tell you to is candidate or hiring managers have so many different meetings that they have to with the business. Recruiting is typically the last priority for them because they're in reality it's not a priority for them. Okay. Let them know that, hey, I get 15 minutes on your schedule or whatever you want to work out. But then also, when you're later in the stages, put calendar blocks on their calendar of saying, hey, here's my phone screen window. Here's my phone screen window. Maybe once a day for 30 minutes, you can do a phone screen there. Whatever you want to come to terms with those managers. And then it holds you accountable to get candidates through the process. And if candidate responds to you and say, hey, great, let's do a phone screen, and then they're good, you don't have to go back to the hiring manager to give them a review session. You can just say, hey, those candidates are good. They checked the boxes that you wanted based on our intake conversation, and you just throw that calendar invite and put that candidate on there, because there's a predetermined time that the hiring manager knows that they will phone screen somebody. Okay. The people that don't like doing this is the people that don't want to hold themselves accountable to the process. They're afraid of, hey, if I put a calendar hold on the manager and I don't hit that deadline, I look bad. Well, it's going to hold you accountable. If you know that it's not filled by next week, a phone screen and the candidate's not on there, you know that you're going to have to do more sourcing, and you know that you need to come up with more candidates or get that review session and get that funnel down. So having the hire manager be in sync with you early on, come with data, come with information, with a landscape of a specific role, and then incorporating them in the process as much as possible is the key habit to be a successful recruiter. The last thing what I would say is a lot of people in the tech world have to, for software engineers, they have to take some sort of a test. And if you want to increase that percentage of them completing it, what I would do is similar process with this. Just say you have 100 assessments out for software engineer roles, and that's the first step in the interview stage of the completion. Okay. What I would do is I would work with your hiring manager after you send that assessment. If they haven't taken it, maybe a week or whatever, have that hiring manager send the candidates a message of saying, hey, I saw that you're practicing and preparing for that assessment. You're going to do great. I'm excited for you to take it by this weekend. Give them a deadline. The percentages of assessments of completion is going to skyrocket because it's incorporating another human being in the whole overall process. Usually drip campaigns right now turn into spam because there's not another human being on the other end. But if you continue to do this and you can use automation to scale out a process, incorporating the hiring manager within that process, utilizing automation within your campaign, your success is going to skyrocket. I know I talked a lot. So excuse that. I got to briefly distract to clarify. You're asking hiring managers if they want to chat just based on a resume, LinkedIn profile without having a conversation to pre-screen. Do we set pay on-site parameters in writing in our written exchange? No. So based on this experience, the question to clarify, you're reviewing those qualified candidates through that LinkedIn, through the resume, an internal candidate comes, whatever, you're presenting a slate of candidates. But you're pushing back to the hiring manager and says, if this candidate responds, because some are actively searching, some are passively looking, if this person responds and is interested in the role, would you have a conversation with them? We don't set anything of, pay on like all that information. That's when you do the recruiter phone screen. You will always do a recruiter phone screen to understand if are these candidates qualified. But based on the resume, they should have a conversation regardless. And if they pass your recruiter phone screen, then it's a green light, and you can, based on the hiring manager of saying, yes, they are on paper worth a conversation, you can skip a step of presenting it again and put them on their calendar. But you have to set expectations on the front end of saying, hey, I need calendar holds for you, 15 minutes to review resumes quick. If they don't have time for that, you can create maybe in a Google Doc or an Excel sheet or something along those lines. A lot of ATSs have a resume review, but set expectations that because of the landscape, depending on the job, we got to move quickly. So set expectations, and then set expectations for yourself and let them know this is the process that we're going to do. Don't let them dictate what the process has been or what it could be. Say, this is what worked. This is what I need from you, because they're having conversations within the business, and that's how things operate. Hey, here's the goal. This is what I need from you. Here's the expectations. If you don't hit expectations, I need to hold you accountable. and having that conversation, they're actually going to be like, oh, this is like a business meeting. Like I can't come and just say, okay, let's review resumes. Like, how's it going with recruiting? No, this is a business meeting. This is the expectations, and I need to hold you accountable. Does that make sense? Follow-up questions. Aren't you concerned that due to bias, they'll reject people because of the imperfect profiles? Ooh, that's a we could do a whole webinar on that of being biased, or because they had one person who seems similar to work at it. Okay. Yep. Sure. Um, that's your job as a recruiter of yes, here is the bucket or persona that they want in a role. And in reality, every hiring manager does have that, right? But as a recruiting leader and a recruiter, your job is to also source candidates that potentially have the skill set but maybe didn't go to a different school or different working for a different company. Use the data that you've had and then present that to a hiring manager and say, hey, based on our experience, what you're looking for, I really think that this candidate can do the job for that. Would you be open if I have a phone screen with them and dig a little deeper onto this experience? If they're good, push them over to you. And then having that conversation. As a recruiter, you need to push back a little bit, but set expectations and then hold people accountable. Did that answer your question? I know this was a lot. I know we went through a ton. Um, any other questions? Anybody doing this currently right now? I think that the biggest takeaway is not be an order taker, but really drive the process and being a talent advisor. You are the expert on the talent landscape and utilize it as a sales call when you're doing that. Understand the pain points because if you can reassure them of yes, you're not hitting goal, you're not filling your projects, you're doing more work, you're working overtime because this person's not in that seat. I need your help. So if hire managers are not participating as much as you think they should be, revert them back to saying, hey, I know you missed the last two resume review calls. Based on our previous conversation, you told me that your pain points are XYZ. Is that still the case? They're going to say yes. Okay, great. I have that plan in place that is going to work because you worked on XYZ manager. Are you still interested in doing this? Because my time is super valuable. I have a ton of recs and I need the support of you and your team to fill this quicker. Push back on them a little bit and set expectations. Obviously, in a perfect world, it doesn't always happen this way. You got to be flexible. But if you set expectations on the front end of leaders will help, they just need to know how they can help and then give them a plan. Awesome. Any other questions as we wrap up? What I'll do too is here we go. I put in the chat right now is Steve Levy did an excellent Outbound Recruiting Academy course about intake discovery strategy sessions. It's a 3-part course. He uses a lot of automation, AI to go into those intake conversations. Feel free to check that out. What I'll do, like I said, I'll put this PDF on what's happening here at Hire Easy this month. Also, the big announcement is we are doing another FRBR conference on October 8th. So everybody please sign up for that. We have a stellar lineup. It's pretty cool. So what I'll do is I'm just gonna highlight by the end of the night. Um, let's see. Here we go. By the end of the night, it should be published of all the speakers, but feel free to sign up now. I think we have about 200, 250 people already signed up for it. So take a look at that. Some of the speakers that we do have is like Anna Morgan, if you know who she is with Rise of the Recruiter. We have individuals like Kai Cunningham. We have individuals like David Marr. We have people like Lori Golden, Ellie Cohen, Josh Rock, April Toms, ton of great speakers. So if you're looking for another free recruiting, if you can't make it to RecFest, please take advantage of this free recruiting conference October 8th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's going to be a good one. If you're interested in getting involved with some of these recruiting conferences, maybe a speaking engagement, whatever it may be, reach out to me. I would love to get connected with you. I know it's sometimes scary, but I'll coach you. I'll get you set up. So feel free to connect with me. This will be posted on our YouTube page, probably by the end of the week. Take a look at that, get involved with the community, the academy, and everything else. So again, thank you so much, everyone. If you have more questions or just like, hey, Dan, I have some issues with a hiring manager or any advice, let me know. Reach out to me personally, and I'd love to take 15, 20 minutes and just talk through it and see how I can help. And again, if you are going to RecFest, come see me, track me down, and you guys know my face. I probably might not know yours, so just like reach out to me and say, hey, Dan, nice to meet you, whatever, and bring your umbrella or bring your swimming suit. So it's going to be storming. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll chat soon.